Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to a quiet, forgotten corner of an airport, where a man sat slumped beside his little girl, his arms wrapped around her small body like a shield against the cold air conditioning and the colder world beyond. His name was Ethan Miller, a single dad whose eyes told stories of sleepless nights, of love, and of loss. He had been a construction supervisor, until the company he worked for folded unexpectedly. Bills piled up, rent was overdue, and his daughter Lily's school tuition hung over his heart like a storm cloud ready to burst. He had tried everything: sold their car, worked odd jobs, borrowed from friends, but fate was cruelly silent. That night, he and his 6-year-old daughter had nowhere to go. The cheapest motel near the airport was beyond his reach, and his last few dollars had gone toward a simple meal: 2 sandwiches, 1 shared smile. They found an empty bench at the far end of Terminal C, away from the noise, away from the crowd. Lily fell asleep with her head resting on his lap, clutching a worn-out teddy bear. Ethan leaned back, staring at the ceiling lights that never went out. Airports never sleep, and neither did worry. He looked at his little girl and whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. Daddy will fix everything soon." But he didn't know how. Passengers came and went. The announcements echoed like distant thunder. And as Ethan drifted into half-consciousness, a woman sat quietly beside him, a stranger in a navy blue jacket, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd with subtle precision. To Ethan, she was just another traveler. But she was not. Her name was Agent Catherine Reed, and she worked for the FBI's Missing Persons Division. That night, the universe had quietly woven 2 broken paths together, and neither of them had any idea how deeply their destinies would intertwine before sunrise. When dawn began to break through the glass walls of the terminal, Ethan woke to the sound of Lily giggling. The woman beside them was offering her a warm muffin and a small carton of milk. "I'm sorry," Ethan said quickly, rubbing his eyes. "She shouldn't." "It's fine," the woman interrupted softly. "You two look like you could use breakfast." Her tone was calm but carried the weight of command, the kind that comes from years of dealing with people who lived on the edge. She introduced herself simply as Kate. She didn't mention the FBI badge tucked into her jacket pocket. They talked. Or rather, Kate asked gentle questions while Ethan tried not to reveal too much. She noticed his hesitation, the nervous way he guarded his daughter, and the exhaustion beneath his words. "Long night?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Long life." She chuckled quietly. Airports have seen worse. But her instincts were already awake. Years in the bureau had trained her to read micro-expressions, to notice details others missed. His calloused hands, his worn boots, the school flyer peeking from his bag, these weren't signs of a vagrant. This was a working man brought down by circumstance. "What are you waiting for?" she asked gently. He sighed. "A miracle, I guess. Maybe a call from a friend in Texas. Said he might have a job for me. But the ticket, it's too expensive. So we're just waiting here until something changes." Something in his honesty caught her heart. He wasn't begging. He wasn't complaining. He was simply enduring. Before she could say more, her phone vibrated, a coded alert from the bureau. A missing child case nearby, possibly abducted and trafficked through the same airport. Her professionalism snapped back instantly. But as she stood, she glanced one last time at Ethan and Lily. Something about them, perhaps the tenderness in how he held his daughter's tiny hand, reminded her of why she joined the FBI in the first place. She walked away to coordinate with local officers, but her mind stayed behind with that little girl and her tired father. She didn't know why, but something inside her whispered, "Don't lose sight of them." By evening, chaos broke out in Terminal C. A security alert echoed through the loudspeakers. "Attention all passengers. Remain where you are. Law enforcement activity is in progress." Ethan jolted awake again. Lily clung to him, frightened by the commotion. Uniformed agents rushed past. Kate was among them, now in full command mode, her badge visible, her voice crisp and decisive. Through snippets of overheard conversation, Ethan pieced together fragments: a child smuggler, a false identity, a hidden route through the airport. Then it happened. As the team cornered a suspect near the restroom, the man bolted, straight into the crowd where Ethan stood. The impact sent Lily's teddy bear flying and Ethan tumbling to the floor. The suspect pulled a knife, wild and desperate. Instinct overrode thought. Ethan grabbed the man's wrist, wrestling him to the ground with raw strength and the kind of fury only a father could summon. The weapon skidded away. Agents swarmed, shouting commands, handcuffing the suspect within seconds. When the noise subsided, Kate stood there, staring at Ethan, wide-eyed. "You just stopped a federal fugitive," she said, almost in disbelief. Ethan shrugged, still catching his breath. "He ran toward my kid. I did what any father would do." She smiled. A rare, genuine smile. Not everyone would have done it that fast. Later, when things calmed down, Kate approached him again. She sat beside him, the way she had that morning. "You've got courage," she said. "And a good heart." He laughed quietly. "Doesn't pay the bills, though." "Maybe not," she replied. "But it can change lives." After filing her reports, Kate made a decision that wasn't in any manual. She reached out to her contacts, a charity partner that helped families in crisis, and within hours, Ethan and Lily had a hotel room booked and a meal covered. When he tried to refuse, she stopped him with a single look. "You've earned a little help." That night, for the first time in weeks, Ethan and his daughter slept in a real bed. Weeks passed. Ethan started a job in Texas, thanks to a contact Kate had quietly arranged through her network. He worked hard, rebuilding his confidence, rebuilding their life. Lily was enrolled in school again, smiling, painting rainbows, no longer afraid of sleeping in public spaces. One afternoon, as he was leaving the construction site, his phone buzzed. A text. "Hope Texas is treating you well. Kr." He smiled and replied, "Couldn't have done it without you. Lily says hi." Kate Reed, meanwhile, sat at her desk in the FBI office, reviewing files. She had seen countless tragedies, children lost, families broken, but that night at the airport reminded her that sometimes, the simplest act of compassion can alter the trajectory of a life. Months later, the Bureau held a small ceremony to recognize civilians who had assisted in federal operations. Ethan received an invitation. When he arrived, dressed in a borrowed suit, Lily's hand in his, he didn't know who had nominated him. When the director took the stage, Kate stood beside him. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "courage doesn't always wear a badge. Sometimes, it sleeps on an airport bench and still finds the strength to protect what it loves most." She gestured toward Ethan. The applause filled the room, but his eyes were only on her, the stranger who had changed his life. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Kate and Ethan stood together in quiet reflection. He said softly, "Funny how a bad night turned into a new beginning." She nodded. "Life's full of undercover miracles, Ethan. You just have to look close enough to see them." Lily ran up and handed her a drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "That's you," Lily said proudly. "Daddy, me, and Agent Kate, the airport angel." Kate laughed, holding back tears. "That's the best title I've ever had. And so, my friends, as I stand before you today, let me tell you what this story truly means. We live in a world that moves too fast, where people walk past one another without looking, where the ones in need often sit quietly in plain sight. But sometimes, when fate slows us down, in an airport, on a street, in a moment of shared silence, something divine happens. 2 broken souls recognize each other. That's what happened between a single father and an FBI agent. He found dignity in despair. She found purpose in compassion. Together, they reminded the world that miracles do not descend from the heavens, they sit beside us when we least expect them. Ethan's story teaches us that no matter how low life drags you, hope waits just beyond exhaustion. And Kate's story reminds us that authority means nothing if it isn't guided by humanity. So the next time you walk through an airport or a crowded terminal, look around. Somewhere, someone might be sitting in silence, waiting for a stranger to care. And maybe, that stranger could be you. Thank you.